into the unknown, into the unseen, the unexplainable, and the unbelievable. Join our strange journeys. Are you ready? And we are live again. Strange Journeys is back on live stream on Facebook and on YouTube. And I appreciate you being here. We're getting more viewers every minute, and we certainly appreciate that. My lovely wife, Lynn, is not able to be with us today. She's sick, but she is watching. But I am Tom, your ghost host for this strange journey today into the bridges of sorrows. Down over... I'm starting to get my orientation right. My lower left is Tim Shepard, one of our ETs. And over to my left is Wil Elrick. Wil Elrick hails from Guntersville in the northeastern part of Alabama. He is a writer and a weirdologist who loves telling stories, whether as a tour guide to historic Huntsville or with friends around a campfire. He can often be found off the beaten path, researching historical, weird, or unusual tales. From time to time, he can even be found participating in a ghost investigation, a Bigfoot hunt, or a search for buried treasure. How cool is that? He previously co-authored the books Alabama Scoundrels, Outlaws, Pirates, Bushwhackers, and Bandits, and covered bridges of Alabama. And his latest book is Alabama Lore, which is available on Amazon. I just got my copy this week. And down right, where's my... Hello, me. Our returning special guest, Lewis O. Powell IV. And I got it right this time. I have been known to call him Junior or the Third or whatever. But Lewis is the founder and writer of the Southern Spirit Guide.org blog. I was going to get that up there for you, man. I didn't misspell it, did I?
Thank you. It looks right.
Okay. Lewis is also the author of Southern Spirit Guide's Haunted Alabama, which I could have swore I had a copy, but I couldn't find it, so I just ended up buying another one, Lewis. So
Well,
How many books I have that I knew I had a copy of and had to rebuy?
I'm sure. Tim?
I do that all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure Tim has too. But anyway, Lewis also is the tour guide for Strange LaGrange. Now, don't you just love the name of that tour? I do. Anyway, Strange LaGrange. This is Lewis's 4th appearance on the show. I wish I had something to shoot confetti up or whatever.
But he's been here more than some of our ETs.
Oh, sad but true. Sad but true.
I'm getting great from the side over here, but my camera position.
Woohoo! I thought you were just doing a little dance for everybody here.
Nobody wants to see that. I promise you.
Thank you. But Lewis was with us first to talk about his Southern Spirit Guide. I think you were on like show 3 early in our first one of our first few shows, and then you came back to talk about the haunted theaters, and then in our season 1 look back, you were with us on that as well. We got a couple of comments. I mentioned my wife was out sick. She did say she was watching. She said, "Hey, everybody."
I hope she gets feeling better.
Well, thank you. She is watching. And we got a new subscriber on YouTube, a friend of Will's, Lee Peacock. He's watching from the ambulance station in beautiful Evergreen, Alabama, about a quarter mile from Murder Creek. Now,
I'm going to give a shout out to Evergreen. For those that don't know, Evergreen, Alabama is the Bigfoot capital of Alabama.
I knew that's where you were going.
Lee Peacock.
Yeah. Oh, parts. Okay.
And Lee Peacock is a great blogger.
Yes, he is. He's a great guy too.
And he just subscribed to our show. How cool is that?
Right.
What is the name of that documentary on Prime? I was trying to think of it last week about Evergreen.
Oh, Town That Loved Bigfoot.
Yeah, I've watched that a couple of times. That is so cool.
I watched it right after it premiered, just so I could send Lee a text message and say, "I saw you on TV."
Cool. And Lee said he needs to get a copy of Lewis's book.
And I used your blog for the book.
Oh.
So I should just send you a free copy.
There you go.
So when you do Bigfoot, you need to have Lee on as a guest.
There we go. We will.
Right.
Lee, you hear that? We were trying to do a show about Bigfoot, some lesser known sightings last season, and it ended up being just me and Tim. Our special guest was oh crap, my mind's going blank now. He's got Alabama Bigfoot and Paranormal. Jonathan Odom. And he had a family emergency come up just before the show and wasn't able to be with us. So we'll have to get Jonathan Odom and Lee Peacock on at the same time talking about some of these so that we can cover Bigfoot really well. Tim and I had fun just going over the new version of the Patterson Gimlin film.
Right.
Where they slowed it down and stabilized it. And we must have watched that thing 4 or 5 times during the show going back over.
At least. And it's like, wait, go back. We got to check this part out.
Right. I think we were doing it just to fill time. So,
Right.
All right. We tried to start the show with ET facts for our executive team. We call our ETs. And this week we were doing, and we always include our special guest on whatever we do on the show. This ET facts is, what are you reading, researching? Tim, I know you said there were several.
I've got 4 that I'm doing currently. Actually, I just finished one like 5 minutes before the show, and that is The Grim Sleeper, the true crime book about the serial killer from the 1978 all the way through early 2000 in South Central LA. So yeah, it's a brutal book. I mean, it was really well done. I'm reading 2 books about William Quantrill at the moment from 2 very different sides. Of course, I'm working on my own book still, or rewriting it after the computer crash and the loss of an entire book.
Yeah,
Will, 2 years worth of writing.
Y'all didn't hear about that. He was almost finished with his Quattrill Raiders book and his computer Quattrill. I can't ever get it right. And his computer crashed. All his research, and they only, what you had the intro, which you'd sent me a copy of, which I never got through and got back to you. But I think that's all he had left was that.
Right. Yeah. A little bit of editing, and it would have been good. And I was like, no.
Oh God. So, all right,
Lewis. I've got Jim Butcher's most recent book. So, no. And then I've got Jim Butcher, who does supernatural fantasy. I've got his most recent book.
How far into it are you?
I am about halfway through. And after, because you've got the one where he brings in the new storyline where it was like, why didn't you just make it all one book?
Yeah, when Battlegrounds ends, your jaw will drop.
Okay. Oh, cool. Cool.
That's good to hear.
Before we get to Lewis, Al Luna has chimed in. Hi, Tom and crew. Can you take any of our 14 inches of snow? The answer is no.
No.
I'm in North Alabama. We still have 4 inches of snow on the ground here where I am.
Oh, God. Oh, Lord.
We just got lots of rain here in West Georgia.
Yeah.
And really wish we had snow.
Oh.
Okay. Well, we got 3 or 4 inches, but it's almost gone. So.
Huntsville Metro, Huntsville itself got no snow, but north of the city, we got tons of it. So.
Wow. All right, Lewis, what are you researching right now?
I have been looking into haunted jails and prisons recently.
Ooh.
So I've gone from theaters to jails, and I may end up getting back to roads and bridges eventually after this show.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you want an interesting haunted jail, I can tell you a story from Marshall County Jail in Alabama when I worked there.
Oh no!
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
That would be
we
cool.
need to hook up after this too, because I've also got a haunted theater story that will blow your mind.
Good.
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah. Well, we ran out of time. I say we ran out of time. We always go, an hour and a half to 2 hours, but we have to cut it off somewhere. And we left a lot of stories on the table, Will. So we'll probably be revisiting the haunted theaters and bring you back on with that as well. All right, Will, what are you digging into right now?
Well, I am actually Kelly Kasich, my wife and I, that you're going to mention when the show gets rolling into the topic.
Oh, you can mention her now. It's okay.
She and I are actually co-researching a book about the Hart brothers, the first serial killers in the United States.
Oh.
And then on a personal level, I am rereading 7 Years in Tibet, which is one of my favorite adventure books. And also Scooby-Doo and the Apocalypse, the comic.
Okay. All right. It's good to be eclectic. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Well, I am rereading again, Mobile Goes to Alabama's Haunted Port City by Elizabeth Parker. She was our guest, our first show of the second season on fairy tales.
I have a copy of that also.
Sure you do. And she was a lot of fun as a guest and very knowledgeable about fairies. She didn't think she would be, but my goodness, she educated us. But anyway, we're going to be having her back on a few shows down the road where we talk about her books. So I'm rereading all of her books to get ready for that. She'll be back in 2 weeks for our Leprechaun show, Fairy Tales 2.
Leprechaun.
And, okay, don't tell anybody, but normally on my tours, I would not. I'd tell it, no, we're not. No, we're not doing the Mobile Leprechaun. Sorry, no, we're not going to talk about the Mobile Leprechaun. But for fun, I may just bring it up next show and play the video. Have you seen the video where they put music to it? I may just have to play that one. That is hilarious. I'm going to go
I just think of the wonderful picture on notebook paper and
oh yeah, the witness sketch, the witness sketch. All right, just so you know, we provide these shows first and foremost for your entertainment. Those of you that are watching, is for you. We are not by any means and do not claim to be scholars or experts in any of the topics we cover, except for Will and Lewis. They're the experts this week. We are simply
throwing that word around kind of loosely there.
We are simply enthusiasts and storytellers. We have fun with the topics, but we also respect your beliefs. If you have a belief that's a little out there and strange for most folks, we're not going to make fun of it. We're going to just accept you for who you are. Now, who caught last show? Last time on Strange Journeys, what were some takeaways from that show? Lewis, I know you sat there and watched the whole time, and I appreciate that.
It was just fascinating hearing more about the ley lines, and it's a topic I have tried to kind of research, but it's a matter of finding out those really those books that can be believed rather than all the other trash that's out there on Amazon.
Right. Well, Tim, you're muted.
I must have done that by accident or something, man. I'm over here hitting things that I shouldn't be. Who knows? To me, just the areas that the ley lines flow through just amazes me, how much is going on with those areas.
Well, exactly. And the rabbit trails. Oh my God. As I was researching this, I was like, oh my God, why did I do this? Because it's like everything paranormal can be attached and related to ley lines, even some things that are not paranormal, like the bees. I never knew that about the bees, how bees are more productive on ley lines, and they follow ley lines as they're getting their pollen. And I mean, the one lady that had tried her bee boxes one season and didn't do anything, and she basically lost all her money. Somebody told her about ley lines. They got out the dowsing rods. They find the ley lines on her property, and so she moved her boxes to the ley lines the next season, and within 2 months they had expanded to 4 boxes, and it kept expanding so much that season that they run out of material. And I was like, oh my God. And then of course Julianne Gordon was an amazing guest, telling about the 20 years she spent in a home that was directly on a ley line, and the sightings that she had, the anomalies, the cold and hot spots, the electromagnetic magnetic activity where electronics wouldn't work, take them somewhere else and they would work perfectly, batteries would drain, just some wild things. And Julie is the film commissioner for Panama City and Bay County, so anything that's going in there to film or whatever, she's involved in it. So, all right. If you're watching on YouTube, we want you to know we thank you so much. So please remember to subscribe like Lee did earlier. Thank you so much, Lee. And share the videos, like the videos, all the stuff that goes along with that. And also, if you could help us do what we do, we'd certainly appreciate it. And you can join for as little as $3 a month, and you get a sticker in a few months. And there's a new level we added where it's more money per month, but you get sticker, mugs, shirts. I mean, just get more swag. And Greg, one of our regular watchers, is back. Hey, Greg, how you doing? Everybody say, hey, Greg.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
He's ready for some good stories. We're going to be those stories in just a few minutes, Greg. Thank you for being here.
Do we know where Greg's watching from?
Oh, good question. Greg, where are you watching from? Let us know. All right. Remember, I'll share this with you, our Strange Journeys stuff, where you can buy all things Strange Journeys branded merch. If you're in our Facebook group, Strange Friends, you have that logo. And it's on Teespring. And, of course, our Valentine's line that we did. I may look normal, but my heart belongs to Nessie. Will, what were you telling us before the show started about your ancestral home?
So there's not a lot of Elricks in the world. And the original Elrick Manor in Scotland got purchased and it's turned into a bed and breakfast. But they also have a gin distillery there called Elrick Gin. But it is made with water taken from Loch Ness. Sadly,
wow.
It's not available and you can't ship it to the United States yet.
Oh, no.
COVID put their travel restrictions on the people that were going to bring it back for me. So I'm hoping to get something for a taste test pretty soon.
There you go. Awesome. All right. Greg is watching from Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland.
The statue in the cemetery there of the Crying Reaper.
Wow. Wow. A couple of our ETs are from Ohio. Well, no, just one. Andrea is from Ohio, and our good friend Al that chimed in a while ago is from Ohio, and he has a paranormal spirit encounter investigations there. He's been on the show a couple of times. Will, you've got somebody saying, hey.
Hey, I remember her from way back, and she's another one from Gunnersville.
Excellent. Well, my wife mentioned this in the comments earlier, and I mentioned it to you, Will. We're going to be vacationing on Lake Gunnersville in June, a family vacation. So you won't see us for about a month. Vacation won't last that long. I wish it could, but we're taking some time off before vacation and after before we pick back up with the shows.
Haunted places to visit while you're there.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you. All right, our strange sightings this week. Now, we've used sightings from the New York Post before. Now, who knows how reputable they are? They can be questionable at times. But this was just something they were reporting. Let me see what you think about this.
Gary, what is that? Holy crap. Gary, what is that? What is that?
Thoughts? It didn't look like a ship to me, a craft.
The only thing I thought it was amusing was the line about customer service.
Yeah. Exactly.
I hate to be the dissenter here, but nothing about that video looks like it was not shot on a green screen.
Could be. Could be. It didn't look like a craft to me. It's just like a smudge almost. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like kind cloud anomaly or something, but green screen could possibly be it.
And I thought it was strange that the lines of smoke or whatever coming from it tended to shift with the craft.
Right. Well, like I said, New York Post, it was a strange video, so it fit our criteria, but we've debunked them on here before, so I'm not.
When I first saw it, I'm thinking they're taking a picture of a whale's fin, from the shore or something. So I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was strange, so it fit the criteria. But it just, something looks a little off. I didn't want to do a UFO sighting because we had such a spectacular one a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, I thought that was just a strange cloud anomaly, or it could be green screen. It could be, it's New York Post. So, all right. Ready to talk about Bridges of Sorrows. She huddles the small bundle to her chest, ever tighter with each step. She rushes, almost running down the narrow dirt road, casting furtive, sidelong glances behind her every few steps. The sounds of her pursuers are still just mumbles in the distance as she approaches the old wooden bridge. Covered in shadows, she knows she can hide in the darkness beneath that bridge and heads to the path that leads down to the river flowing to the west. And so begins the legend that has passed down for generations in just about every state in the U.S. We'll talk about some of those, as well as a few other creepy haunted bridges that we've come across. Lewis and Will have stories of their own, and we'll get to those in just a moment. Now, in honor of our special guest, I pulled a few from his wife, Kelly Kazak's article at AL.com, the best-known ghost tale from each Alabama county. And the first one is Refuge Bridge. Oop, let me find that picture. Get back up here. Refuge Bridge in Clanton. Where did I put it? There it is. This isolated one-lane bridge in rural Chilton County is said to be haunted by a malevolent spirit that chases people who cross it. People claim if they get out of their cars, they hear and feel a presence beside them. Others say they have experienced their cars rocking while on the bridge. Have y'all heard that on other bridges?
Yes.
All right, this is the one we mentioned already. Haunted Highway and Murder Creek Bridge. Now, it didn't connect, but I had put this in my notes earlier, but local writer and historian Lee Peacock, shout out to Lee again, but this is coming from
the most popular person here.
There you go. But I'm taking this from Kelly's article. Lee said the 40-mile stretch of Interstate 65 between Evergreen and Greenville is known as the Haunted Highway. The book Haunted Places, the National Directory by Dennis William Hawk claims that this section of highway is haunted by spirits of displaced Creek Indians and has resulted in an accident rate that is well above average. Murder Creek Bridge is located on this stretch. Peacock said it's the site of numerous unusual accidents over the years, including several that have resulted in fatalities and catastrophic fires. One truck driver said that he struck the bridge, listen to this, after a ghostly horse-drawn carriage crossed the interstate in front of him. Others have reported seeing large panther-like cats cross the highway in this area. Now, the big black cats in Alabama is not unusual. I've heard about that for years, so that may not be paranormal. What do you think it will?
And the picture you show of the bridge there was not the 65 bridge. That was the 231 bridge over Murder Creek. There's another bridge that goes over on Interstate 65.
Yeah.
So I've been down there to Murder Creek.
This one?
I've been to both of them, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it's a weird place. The belief that it was built on an Indian historic site is very high. I mean, it's just a very weird, creepy place to visit.
Wow.
In fact, it's called Murder Creek, too. I mean,
well, yeah. That.
And I also know that that I-65 corridor is also very much rife with Bigfoot sightings. And I know Lee Peacock wrote about some couple that was driving down the road very late at night and passed one at just as they were about to emerge onto the road. They drove past this very large figure.
And was that in the movie? Because that sounds familiar.
It probably was in the movie. There were lots of mentions of Murder Creek in that movie.
Yeah.
And if you've never been there, it's a very isolated, wooded area out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, some of that, what Lewis just said sounded very familiar to me for some reason. I mean, I've come across that either in that movie or some of my research. Kelly also mentions the Mary Daniel Bridge in Highland Home. An old bridge off Mother Shed Road is known as Mary Daniel Bridge. It is named for a woman who lived in the area in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and was thought to be a witch. According to legend, she was driving her baby in a horse-drawn carriage. Here we go with the carriage again. As they crossed the bridge, the horses were spooked, and the carriage was tipped into the water below. The baby reportedly drowned and was buried not far from the bridge, and Mary survived. But when she finally reached her home and reported the accident to her husband, the man began drinking to soothe his grief, and didn't take long before he was drunk, and in his anger, he dragged his wife to the bridge and hanged her from the railing before jumping to his death. People claim to see Mary's spirit on the bridge, searching for her lost child. Some say they've seen orbs of light appear to float on the river. Now, I couldn't find pictures of the Mary Daniel Bridge. I mean, I think Kelly had a picture of the home or something related, but I was looking for pictures of the bridge. But I went on Google Earth and I found this. There were two bridges on Mother Shed Road, and that one's over Camp Creek, and this one was over Briar Branch. So I'm not sure which one it is, but there's the one over Camp Creek. Of course, these wouldn't be the same bridges. They wouldn't have lasted that long. The wooden bridges wouldn't have. They've been replaced. As you'll see, when it's not really a surprise, got a special treat coming up for you closer to the end of the show. Lynn and I visited our Crybaby Bridge just last night, and I took some pictures and some different things. We're going to tell you about that. No, nothing wild and crazy happened. It was just kind of cool, and I'm going to share that with you later. All right, you can't do a study or research on haunted bridges without coming across Crybaby Bridge. And I've highlighted a few, and Tim, I'd come across this in my research, but Tim has actually researched this one, Theorosa's Bridge. I got a couple of pictures here.
Now, Theorosa's Bridge actually sits on what they call White Woman Creek, part of the Arkansas River out in western Kansas. The bridge that you've got a picture of is the new bridge. The old bridge was built in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
It actually sat to the north of the bridge that is now there. In fact, the road is still there to go to the original bridge.
Oh, wow.
What happens is that and I found documentation pointing to this, lots of legends say that it was a woman that had her baby killed right along the river there or something. But in 1867, there's a wagon master that is leading a wagon train across the Santa Fe Trail, and they get to about this particular area when they're attacked by Indians. Somehow or another, the wagon master makes it out alive. About 10 years later, he comes across a group of Osage Indians. He goes back and he tells Fort Dodge that they're actually Wichita Indians, and they're not. They're Osage that are out there, and that there's a white woman living among them as a slave, and that they need to go rescue her from the Indians. They actually attack this particular tribe right around the area where that bridge is, and they slaughter off the entire encampment. The only person that they take back is the white woman, and she recognizes this man that had reported the wagon master because she had survived the attack from the Indians as well, and she thinks that he had gone and got the Indians to come and attack them. The colonel at Fort Dodge would send a letter to Fort Leavenworth, where the general for the area was, asking if they could try the man for murder of the original group that had gone through. She did not stick around. She actually returned to the area of White Woman Creek, and she's seen walking along White Woman Creek still, crying and looking for her child, because she did have what she told the colonels, that she did have a child with one of the Indians, that she was married to one of the sons of the chief, and didn't know where her baby was. But when you go out there to Theoros's Bridge, what they're talking about is that there is a wailing sound all the time. It goes on constantly, and has been going on for the better part of 100 years, even after they changed the bridges.
Wow. Well, I found this picture too. I thought it was just kind of somebody wanted to let you know Theodosa was still here.
Was here.
Yeah.
Still here. Yeah.
Still here. Just letting you know. I don't want to go into all of these. We may come back to them if we feel like it, but there's Blackstone, Virginia, Sleepy Hollow Road, Kentucky, several in Ohio. Greg, you may know of some of these. The Screaming Bridge of Maud Hughes Road, Egypt Road in Salem. And is that it in Ohio? Yeah. And then a few in Texas, and DeKalb has got Crybaby or Spook Bridge, Lufkin, Texas, Jack Creek, and Port Neches, Sarah Jane Bridge. I mean, there's Crybaby bridges everywhere. Now, I had asked Lewis and Will to come on here to talk about some of the ones they've gone over. And Lewis, share some of those you put on our list.
Well, actually, in your little introduction, talking about the woman carrying the bundle, and that reminded me of a story that I hadn't really thought about. There's a story from just outside of Conway, South Carolina, of something called the Lucas Bay Light. And South Carolina Bay is a geographical feature that's just kind of an indention in the landscape. And this one in particular is called Lucas Bay. And the story is there was a woman living in the area during the Civil War. And at the end of the Civil War, of course, Sherman is marching his troops up from Savannah into South Carolina. And this woman began to fear for her life and the life of her infant. So she decided to take her child out to a bridge over a local creek and put the child up in the rafters underneath the bridge. And of course, she did that and then went back home. And as the soldiers are approaching, a storm came up, and she began to notice the water was rising in the area. So she fled back out of course, the soldiers are still approaching, and by the time she got to the creek, unfortunately, her infant had drowned. And there is still a light seen in Lucas Bay that is believed to be the spirit of this woman.
Wow. I just want a little disclaimer. The little intro thing I read after the intro to the show, I just compiled. That's all that was, and I just made a little dramatic reading from all the different legends. So,
I mean that was kind of spot on for the Lucas Bay one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. What else? You sent me some pictures. What else do you want to share with us?
There's a place in Asheville, North Carolina that I visited several times, a place called Helen's Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And Helen's Bridge is located up on Bowcatcher Mountain, and you take College Street, which starts out in downtown Asheville, and actually goes right up the mountain. And that is College Street right below this bridge. This bridge was actually built as a carriageway for an estate called Zealandia. And the estate is the main house is still there. Of course, the bridge and the carriageway have fallen into some disrepair. It was some years ago threatened with demolition when they were building one of the interstates there, but eventually a group of people got together and were able to save or prevent the interstate from going through Bowcatcher Mountain.
Wow.
But the story is that there was a lady who lived in the area who was a servant at Zealandia, and she had a daughter who she loved dearly, and their home caught fire, and the daughter was killed in the fire. And that this the mother's spirit still prowls around the bridge in search of her daughter, but it has become a point of ritual for local teenagers to a rite of passage to go up and try to summon the spirit of Helen, and they will go up there and call Helen's name. And a number of people have actually done this and ended up with car problems. Sometimes people aren't able to crank their cars, but in the case of one investigator, she went up there and ended up having problems with her car door locks. And she had that problem for about a week afterwards. And eventually she went back and asked Helen to take her curse off of the car doors locks.
Oh, my goodness.
And her car was didn't have any problems from there on.
Wow.
But this is a very kind of mysterious place, even though it's off of a major road and right there in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Wow. You reminded me as I was doing research, and we're going to come back to you. I'm going to get a couple of Will stories, and then Tim's got another one he's going to tell us about. We're going to come back and maybe bounce back and forth for a couple of stories here. But you reminded me, as I was doing research, I was watching a video, well, it reminded me two things. First thing, saw a group of teenage girls in the car going out to their crybaby bridge and da-da-da-da-da. They get out and they get on the bridge, and the legend says that if you scream out, "Hey, I killed your baby," then the ghost will show up. And they got out, and one of the little girls run down there and screamed, "I killed your baby." And I had to turn it off. I'm sorry. I mean, if this is all real, and I'm sorry if I'm getting on a soapbox, but if this is all real and that spirit is attached to that bridge that lost her baby, then wouldn't that be the most cruel thing in the planet you could do to that living spirit?
Exactly.
Passed on spirit. I just didn't think that was appropriate. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. The other thing, whoa, we lost Tim.
Bye, Tim.
He'll be back. Yeah, exactly. That happened to me a couple of times during the fairy show. I was using a mouse I wasn't used to, and I just blinked out a couple of times. And Elizabeth say, "Well, he ate the fairy food, and they took him, And Elizabeth just rolled right on with it. But the other thing, and I don't want to go into this, but I don't want to mention it. The gravity heels, they are connected to the haunted bridges, and in several cases, yep, there Tim's back. He's back. But again, I don't want to go into this because it's probably worthy of its own show. But the gravity heels, where you park your vehicle, put it in neutral, and it'll roll uphill. If you sprinkle baby powder on it, you'll have baby footprints and handprints. And supposedly, I mean, I've heard of this happening. There's videos all over YouTube. But on one of the videos I was watching, they were at a crybaby bridge, a bunch of idiot guys. And I actually made myself sit through the whole 20-minute video, but they had baby powder sprinkled on the rear bumper. And it was like, oh, look, there's baby handprints and baby footprints. Now, number one, why would a baby be standing on a bumper that's angled like that? You know, and the footprints are clear. They're not sliding. And number two, they were footprints of the same foot. They were like two right feet. And so, and you expect me to believe this is real, you know, and it was, I don't know if you ever did this in the snow on a car. You put your fist down and make an imprint of the side of your fist, and it looked like a little baby's foot, and then you dot the toes in. Right. That's what it looked like to me. Okay.
One of the videos I've seen debunking that is that essentially the baby powder settles into fingerprints and handprints and whatever that are already there.
Right? Exactly. That makes sense. And the moving on its own part is actually it is a gravitational anomaly because of your well, let's say it's a visual anomaly where it looks like it's rolling uphill, but it's really not. And I've seen that tested and everything. All right, Will, a couple of your stories.
Okay, so just watching the beginning made me think of this bridge, and it's not in my book, it's not even in Alabama. Okay, but it's probably the most famous bridge haunting ever, besides the Tower of London Bridge. The Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
For those that don't, the Silver Bridge was made famous by the Mothman.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1967, they saw him several times before the Silver Bridge ended up collapsing on December 15th, where it killed 46 people.
Right.
And after the bridge disappeared, the Mothman disappeared.
Yep.
Everyone took his presence to be a foreshadowing of something bad that was going to happen.
Yep.
And now it is celebrated by the book The Mothman Prophecies from 1975, which was loosely translated to a movie in the early 2000s, started that year. And if you've never been, Point Pleasant hosts a wonderful Mothman festival every year.
Cool. Wouldn't it be cool to go?
Mothman and the bridge collapse and the Mothman Museum. It's just a smorgasbord of everything paranormal gathered in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Yeah.
What is really the most haunted bridge.
Yeah. But that makes sense.
I talk about Hartsell's Crybaby Hollow here in North Alabama. And it's funny because every place I've lived has had a Crybaby Bridge of some type. In Gunnersville, we had one. It was actually called Crybaby Holler, but there was a bridge there. They have the one in Hartselle, which is northwest of Gunnersville in Morgan County. Where I lived in Indiana, we had one. Where I lived in North Carolina, we had one. So pretty much everyone has a haunted Crybaby Hollow bridge. And, you know, one of the big stories you'll find a lot of times is that there was a creek. Native American tribes local to those areas, when they had sick infants, they would take them there and drown them in that creek because they just didn't have food for them. They could not meet the needs of a sick infant in that style of life, and they would drown them in these creeks. And of course, walking to the creeks created trails. And as white people settled, the trails became roads which had bridges across them. And that's one legend you hear all the time. You know, another one that you hear that goes back to when automobiles were just really becoming a thing is they had a wreck on the bridge and the wife dropped the infant in the water and drowned. And the baby haunts the water, or she haunts the creek bed looking for the baby. And actually, all those three legends right there all play song into the Crybaby Bridge in Hartselle, because as it becomes popular folklore, everybody takes something they've heard and adds to it, especially in today's internet age where the story just grows and grows and grows. And, you know, it's funny, everybody knows somebody that had an experience here, but they didn't necessarily have the experience themselves.
Exactly.
And I mean, when I did my book, I had lists of hundreds from across the country.
Oh, I'm sure.
And you can't just list those. But we did look and find a couple of similarities that all these bridges had.